What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another one of these 1v1s. And this time we have got the infamous TaToH playing against TheMista. And it's a Mongol versus France matchup. So TaToH, of course, being on the Mongols, isn't opting for any of these cheesy rush strats, just immediately moves his town center towards the tree line. And this is a good move because on this type of map, remember, half of it is sea. So he's just looking to completely exploit the ocean for max gains on the food front. We see this almost always from the pro-level players, actually. The reason being, by the way, it's quite a simple logic behind it. Think of the fact that you have a town center and it's producing your villages, right? Your villages are your resource generators. But you only have one building that can generate them until you get another town center, which you can't do until you tech up anyway. Meanwhile, if you were to build into docks, you then have another building which can build a resource generator, namely the fishing ships, right? So the whole idea is you diversify your resource priority, and you essentially... I wouldn't say exactly double your resource generation rates, but you don't have to focus any of your villagers' attention on food. You can completely prioritize them over on wood and gold, and it doesn't really cost you more because while these ships are a tiny bit more expensive in a different resource category, that being wood instead of food, while you do have to get these extended lines, these fishing upgrades, remember that the gold spent there is saved because you're not getting the gathering rates from like a mill that are offered for food gathering rates, right? Same with survival techniques. So this is why everything is just on wood here. I love this move from TaToH, identifying that and just finding like this perfect spot. Just look how perfect that spot is, folks. There is just one tree that maybe would have blocked him out there, but it's between two wood lines, so he's getting efficiency. He doesn't even have to waste money, like his opponent, or wood rather, going into this lumber camp, which is what the French player had to do. Speaking of which, in terms of workers, it looks like it is 6 on the wood line here and 6 here. These people are still fishing over here for TaToH. Reason being is right now you don't have enough fishing ships out to optimize the production of villages, but he will soon, and that should be when he switches these over to gold. So that he can prep for Tech 2 up, not to mention then have the resources required to start building into some sea warfare. By the way, interesting thought for you guys. Mongols get access to Baoshuans? I think it's Baoshuan, which is the anti-structure, the siege Tech 4 warship. Why is it that the Mongols, who I do not really ever historically associate with fleets, get access to a Tech 4. But the Russians do not get a... I know they weren't really historically known for their fleets, okay? Yes, trying to operate a fleet out of the northern side of Russia would have been a bad idea. But I would say the Mongols, who were primarily a landlocked nation, also didn't rely on ships. Just food for thought. I know it's a balance point, but really makes you feel bad as a Rust player when you get Tech 4. At least we have guns, right? So, big gather of sheep. I believe TaToH sent this all the way across the map instantly just to yoink the sheep from Mista. We didn't mention it, but it forced out the wall. This is why this wall is here. He was here earlier, and I don't know if he got in and yoinked any. I think he yoinked the initials, but didn't go deeper because otherwise he would have risked getting walled here. And this is where this type of like generation, when your opponent makes that move, it kind of backfires to have such a nicely protected woodline area, right? Because it just means that, well, quite frankly, he has a funnel point where he knows you're coming through, and he can actually, if he's quick on the out and you check your backside first, he's going to yoink all of your sheep. In fact, he hasn't even returned his sheep. He has no interest, which I'm actually fine with. It just means that what he's essentially doing is making sure that Mista doesn't have an alternative option where he comes and just fully invests on the water for food. Which, by the way, Mista did opt to get his goats. Look on the other side. Oh, sorry, sheep, rather. Look on the other side. TaToH only has 2 people on it compared to, like, 5. That being said, School of Cavalry is now being built. There is no similar tech up out of TaToH yet. He still hasn't... Wait. Oh, no. Okay, that's a bit of a whoopsie. He still hasn't actually invested in a GER next to the gold vein. He'll finally do it. I'm surprised he didn't do it here and then move these fishing lines over. It wouldn't make much difference. It's the same amount of distance for a villager to work to reach the gold vein. But he will start to gather gold now, and that should be where we see a quick tech up in the Tech 2, and then you can get attack ships on the water. At this rate, though, TaToH will have an advantage, because keep in mind, as long as he gets eco strong enough, he can build into the hulks immediately once he reaches Tech 2, which he's halfway to doing right now, has 3 people on it, so almost 2 times the speed of construction. In terms of fishing count, he has got 7 out. When we look across at TaToH, it's just 4. So TaToH is definitely behind right now. He needs to fix this. He needs a second dock, really. He's just being outdocked. This is a frustrating element of playing as Mongols, by the way, which is like you can eco boom in some ways, but I think especially on water maps, it feels a little bit weird because you need gurs. Like, you can get a great efficient spot for your town center, but you still need like a gur or two, right? And they cost 100 wood. 100 wood. So if you need 2 gurs, like, you're basically, you always feel like you're doubling up, right? Because, yeah, he'll have to pay to place a lumber camp, but inevitably what should happen is that you should be at 100 wood deficit in the first age compared to your opponent. And Khan's in. We didn't mention, but he did go early horseman, so he's going to actually harass the eco because there still hasn't been a tech up yet. And wait, did he not complete the walling? Oh my god, he didn't. Not only that, the villies have snuck in. It was a transport ship. Yeah, he went transport ship. So he snuck these across. He also put villagers here, and he's building a small base right next to France. So there will be eco damage done here. He's actually trying to target the docks instead of going for the wood line. So Mista has stopped building. He hasn't completed these palisades. He started to build them. He isn't going to continue constructing them. The town center somewhat protects, but you are still exposed if he attacks your wood line. And with more horsemen coming, I think he just might. Then again, you could opt to just eliminate completely his food income by burning both these docks because he doesn't have anywhere else to build. Like, look at this layout. He can't build north. He's stuck here. He's trying to build another dock in the corner. He is going to get an outpost out which should protect him. He will definitely lose this dock, which also, keep in mind, is going to be 50 gold and 50 wood going the way of TaToH. But I love this move with the early horsemen. And he'll continue to produce them over here with the barracks. Yeah. This now spearmen, because, right, the horseman's about gap closing, but the spearmen, like, you just produce them here. Meanwhile, he is teching up now, so he's slow on the tech up, but he's the one doing eco damage. Mista has done absolutely nothing for comparison to TaToH's eco. But that is the Hulk out, and this is where you have to back off the shoreline completely. It was good that he was able to get that one dock, but sadly he won't be able to get more because the Hulk will snipe you out in 2 hits on these horsemen. With that, though, I do expect Mista to just move this Hulk across to his opponent's side. He saw that there was finally a tech up out of TaToH, but he hasn't started building arrow ships yet. And I think you need like probably 4 archer ships to match up against the Hulk here. Even if you're being repaired, like, you will slowly be obliterated, right? The problem that TaToH has, something that Mista doesn't know yet, is that TaToH is still playing out of 1 dock. But I love this move over here. I was about to say, this is the play. He is continuing to build up a base right next to Mista, and he's actually expanding into dockyards right here next to the primary base of the French player. So, fishing ships will be exposed. He gets 1 archer ship out, but look at that, like 13 damage, meanwhile 100. This is what I mean. This is what makes Hulk ships so busted. I don't even know if it gets fixed if you remove all of the, or like most of the early armor. They are just incredibly dominant on the sea. Yes, they're more pricey, but the cost efficiency is just too damn high. And the raid attempt is going to be a flop for TaToH, not able to get in there. Now with knights being produced as well, he needs to be careful also, as he doesn't have his Magadai. He hasn't even built an archery range, so he can't even get access to Magadai yet. Still has this dock, and he has moved. I love this. He's moved the fishing ship around. As long as he doesn't get scouted here, which it looks like he will eventually, then he can get value. The problem is now that he's being attacked here and he doesn't have spearmen being produced to defend this, he's going to lose not only his villages, so he can't keep producing more buildings here, but also he doesn't really have the means to stop these night raids coming in and just spotting out your dock. So he needs to actually build more units up here to protect this, because this is actually his eco gain right now, because I don't think Mista still knows. And the cool thing is if you split it like this, remember that Hulks are quite slow. And so moving back and forth across at the moment, especially when he doesn't want to invest too much into too many Hulks, seeing his opponent doesn't have any in the water, means his attention might be split and you might still be able to eco up and actually keep getting a lot of food on the Mongols. Spearman being produced back in base. I think TaToH might just start eco booming. It's tough on this map though because you don't have the easiest route to marketplace. You don't control water. I think the one move you can make is if he builds a dock down here, he can start making ship caravans. But that's not really where your benefit, like the benefit of trade doesn't really come there. It comes from land trade because of the caravan bonuses as well as the tech up build that makes caravans cheaper. Nice movement with the archer ships, by the way. Snipes out a few of these fishing ships. It's the best he can do because he still can't contest direct with the hulks. And he does manage to break away with the archer ship just in time. The problem is he's doing the trades because, look, Mr. moved in. So he snipes out 1 or 2 of the fishing ships. He blocks out all their drop-off points and also sneaks his knights in. So now he's looking for some eco damage. Doesn't want to run into the spearmen. The spearmen don't want to run into him either because there's not actually enough of them here to deal with the horsemen. And Mr. Has he spotted this out? I think he sees it. Yeah, he's about to move through. Right under the deer spot, so he can actually try and snipe these guys out, but he looks the wrong way. He's not paying attention because he's trying to deal with stuff back in his base and on the water as he continues to just block out this dock from producing any units. Spearman will be chased away. The outpost is finally going to be built, so he will start to just protect this expansion. I think you can still... I don't think you can run through on this coast side, so this is completely like blocked off. It's just this choke point that you have to worry about if you're TaToH. But the knights are still going to be a problem. Meanwhile, the archers just plow in and try to snipe out the fishing vessels. Which they'll get 1 or 2 here, but it's going to cost him the rest by the looks of it. And that's most of what you got. I mean, 2 fishing ships AFK over here. He started to build more fishing ships over here up to 5, but he hasn't got more attack ships. So it's fair to say Mr. does rule the seas. He just doesn't know what he's ruling right now, right? It's more like TaToH as the pesky pirate whose hideout you just can't find. I think that's a fair way to assess the situation. Because while Mr. knew about this barracks, he never found the dock. And he's trying to get rid of this force that is at the back of his base right now from the Mongol player. And TaToH's forces will be eliminated by this many spearmen. He's just outnumbered. The horsemen cannot fare well against this. So he's going to rinse this entire bunch, and then he can just move across to burn the racks. And once he does that, he might even spot there's a dock here. And that's when things get problematic for TaToH, because he can't produce out of his dock in his base. In fact, his dock in his base is actually on fire due to 1 Hulk. He is, in the meantime, chasing the knights all the way back to the base. And if he can actually move a forward base up, just get some production out with spearmen, which is what he's doing. I love this so much from TaToH. He's moving in, because if he can actually hold this choke point, knights can't get out on the field. It also means that he can build a full base to reinforce, so they'll always have a quantity to match the knights that are coming out. Meanwhile, Mr. has shown that he's being forced to diverge, just kind of basically spread his investments as he has to keep investing in hulks on the sea to keep pressure up. Archers in. And might snipe out a few units here. The knights are going to try to move away now. He gets 1, he doesn't get the second. He does lose the barracks, and they now know about the dock. If he keeps these archers close, it's hard for them to raise the dock. The problem is with the Hulk being so close by, now you're going to start to get sniped out. Remember, it just takes 5 hits to take down 1 of these light junks. And even if he mass produces them, it's not going to be good enough. But this is a distraction. Remember, we said TaToH, now his priority is on land. He's already pushing up with these forward bases. Yes, he's been choked off of the sea, but he doesn't care. Now he feels that his way to win is just to box in Mr. Because Mr., while he could invest in transport ships and go for your base, he's got a higher priority here. Like, he's trying to eco-boom somewhat. And he needs to actually deal with the center of the map. Because if you allow this to go the way it is currently going, the other move that TaToH has is he can start to invest in the marketplace and the trade with caravans. Because if he chokes you in here, he has a trade route cross-map to maximize gold intake. Something that France won't be able to do because their marketplace is up in flames. And Baron Ram's being built as well. So he's looking to get frisky already. And there are a few knights here, yes, but this is not enough for this quantity of spears. And remember, these are hardened spearmen, so they'll match up nicely against these royal knights. And with the outpost as well, that means they've got the speed boost. And this outpost couldn't be intercepted because of the positioning. Outposts are now going to be built by Mr., but Mr needs to be careful because he's about to actually expose this tree line and give them an entry where they don't even need to go through the palisades. And once again, the fishing ships. Like, it's just distracting because he hasn't got enough hulks out to guard both sides because he still has to worry about the south and the north. The south, by the way, that hasn't been raised. TaToH is still getting eco there, so his food is booming. He has over 2k surplus. And with that wood, it's enough to just start spamming out spearmen like crazy. Spearmen that should be able to match up against these knights, and he's going to need them as well because there's a decent amount of spears for Mr. as well. And they're protecting the battering ram. They're actually getting around the wrong side of this. They're not getting on the battering ram. They're having to prioritize the units instead, and they're losing the knights. This means that actually the advantage is going the way of TaToH. TaToH down to 13 spearmen left. Meanwhile, spearman count is 8 for Mr. And remember, you're garrisoning these outposts, and these outposts have been upgraded, so they are firing onto the French forces. Battering ram will get rid of the stables, and now he can begin to get access to the base. There might be enough here to clean up the spearmen, but damage is looking like it's done, especially with the reinforcements coming through. This double barracks is doing wonders for TaToH. Battering ram. Going straight for the outpost and being ignored because it's in range of these outposts. This double outpost is just going to outdo you. Not to mention the fire coming out from your stacked-in outpost on the French side is having to direct all fire towards the battering ram, so you need to get rid of this variable first. Reinforcements incoming as well. Khan even involved in the party. Spearmen just stab them one by one, and because they're distracted by the battering rams, they're not dealing with what is actually attacking them directly, which is the spears. New barracks being built as well. TaToH continuing the advance towards the enemy base. Reasonable amount of spears still. He's got a few man-at-arms as well, so this is the play. You know that there's going to be a massive amount of spears because usually this is actually what a Mongol's going to do, especially when they're up against France because they have to counter the Royal Knights. But once you make the switch too heavily, expect to see TaToH do the same because he can actually afford man-at-arms. And also, you're burning all the food right now. Remember, Mista, he's lost most of his fishing fleet. Look, they're forced to be over here now. He's finally actually come down to the south to deal with this nuisance. He will be able to get rid of TaToH's eco advantage. But TaToH still has a surplus of food to burn through, which he can use to his advantage right at this moment to keep up and match the military force that the French are putting out in their own base. One battering ram left. It looks like that one will be burnt down soon as well. He got rid of multiple outposts, houses, the marketplace, and the stables. So a decent amount of wood cost for Mista. And Mista now forced to build another barracks here to protect himself. But the battering ram is already in on the town center. It won't last much longer. He needs to get more reinforcements here. But let's check what's happening back in his main base, because this is the important detail. Check out the income per minute. He's boomed up. He's just hit this, and this means that his income per minute, which is now matching Mista, is going to be vastly ahead of him. Because remember, this step readout, it gives an extra 50% gold to drop-offs, and he's planted it between double gold veins. And remember, with that extra gold, he can easily just trade for the extra food that he's now missing from his economy because of all the fishing ships. Which, by the way, fishing ship lines have returned to his side of the map because he distracted his opponent long enough on the southeast side. His opponent can't even focus on this anymore. His opponent can use his advantage on water currently to start trading, but notice that he's not really hunting with his Hulk ships anymore because he's still cleaning up the remnants of the base that TaToH had to the south. And with that, there will be a backup for the moment from TaToH. He's moving his barracks back, just kind of recollecting his forces. He's done decent damage here, but he knows when he's beat. There's just too many man-at-arms now coming out. He needs to try and match the tech and essentially get his equivalent unit. In fact, now I would expect to switch into Lancers that he finally has access to. Probably Lancers backed up by Spears, in fact. So I think that's a highlightable detail in this matchup. Usually we see France opt into Archers. He didn't even do it this game. He needed to have Spear against the early Horseman harass, right? Which means that he was invested in barracks already, which is why he stayed invested and went for man-at-arms instead of going back for archers, because it would have cost him an extra 150 wood. That wood, by the way, he needed because he had to keep replacing his fishing fleet. It's the ripple effects of games like this, and I just love to watch it. Like, we talk about traditional openings like I just did, but then we now talk about what you're actually forced to change. And this is what makes pro players pro players. You can't come at them with a generic strategy. They will force you to change up what you're doing. Archer ships just being sniped by this one Hulk, and that's going to force the whole fishing line to move away. Looks like there are explosive junks now, so this is where TaToH can get active and counter on the water. This is the timing you're always looking for up against France. You need to reach that tech free so you can actually get demo ships to counter to Hulks. The problem is it's only really super effective when you're dealing with amassed Hulks. Right now it's only a few, but keep in mind the damage of a demo ship, 300, like 2 hits from this, and then you easily have control of the battle up against Hulks. It's just a matter of getting them in before they get sniped, because it only takes, I believe it's 3 hits, because these guys do 100 damage before reductions, and your junk ships only have 200 health. And he's going to use them on the fishing ships. One of them sinks pretty much all the fishing ships, because remember, 300 damage up against a 125 health unit is good enough. And there's the Hulk now hitting into the demo ship. One's going to be forced to go boom. The second one will crash in time, and that's a lot of damage. 600 health immediately off the Hulk. Not enough archer ships to finish it off, though. Meanwhile, that's now... it's actually now the attack ship's out. So the other thing you can get tech free is he's got access to the war junks, which is the equivalent to the Hulk. So he finally has a counter. And in fact, these are stronger, 120 compared to the 100. And when he's this close to the shore as well, he's just being burnt down quicker. So junk ship gone. or Hulk ship gone rather, junk ship in control, TaToH may actually now be able to take control of the water. I feel like Mr. has switched his attention so much onto the land that TaToH can now invade via the sea. And I think the good news, at least for Mr., is he didn't invest heavily in trade ships, because if he had, he would have been doubling down on going for these Hulks, and I think that would have put him at a vast disadvantage at this stage in the game. Meanwhile, Hulk just about survives, get rid of the other attack ship, transport ship to fall as well. He has regenerated his dock line right at the bottom here, so France will be able to be on the sea and present. But they're going to need more military force to defend themselves, because 1 or 2 ships could cause quite the ruckus. In the meantime, man-at-arms charge, a lot of Magadai, and they have to run so far. Remember, they don't actually move that fast. So you will snipe out most of these men-at-arms before they even reach your base. This Magadai kiting is perfect. And this is the problem when you're forced into early man-at-arms. At this stage in the game, like, you don't actually control these choke points. You haven't funneled your opponent to your base. So after he sees you invest in this many man-at-arms, you give him so much time to build up a force to counter this by the time you cross the map. And also, it seems like Mr. wasn't paying attention to his units, because they are still being kited. They didn't even go in for the base. Not that they would have achieved much here. And we thought that TaToH might go for Lancers, but there was no requirement. Magadai were good enough. Forward keep now being built, and this is where Mr. can begin to choke the game a little. He needs to get some walling up. He needs to have a forward area control so there can't be Magadai raids that go past him. He does have to still be careful, because once you reach a critical mass of Magadai, look how you get kited and look how you die. Like 2 volleys, kill a knight. Or sorry, 3 volleys. And yeah, now he knows he can chase down, so he's going to chase in. So these vet roll knights will fall. The men-at-arms are way too slow to move away. They're going to fall as well. And this is the price of not backing your troops up with an archer range. This is the price of not responding to what your opponent is doing correctly. You have to respect the triangle of balance. The keep will snipe a decent amount of these Magadai. I wouldn't be surprised if TaToH just runs it towards the eco line, though. Like, if he sees all the military is this far forward, he's got to question what's defending the base. And look, they didn't even actually re-palisade. Like, this tree line's still exposed. And the villagers, they're going to have to build someone up quick to protect themselves, because you could just go straight in and try and interrupt the eco line. Mr. still chasing with the man-at-arms. This will buy time for the palisade walls to go up, but it is going to cost him all his man-at-arms, which means the efficiency, the value has already been found in these Magadai. Like, they've traded their life's worth and more. Meanwhile, distraction does give time for Mr. to move forward and get on this gold vein. And veteran spearmen are being produced slowly by TaToH, one by one. Question for me is whether we're going to see like a base constructed and then transported across into the back of his opponent. The problem is it's unlikely to work. Like, he's got to respect he's playing against a high-level player, so there's probably outpost down, as we can see. So Mr. would see that coming. In fact, this is where the second TC expansion came. We didn't talk about that because there's been a lot of early action, but both of them on a double TC. In terms of eco up, I would expect Mr. to beat TaToH to it, because TaToH is investing so much into food. So much food into military, rather. Magadai continuing to just go to town on these lads. Snipes out the priest as well. So that is, what, 300 odd gold spent? And they just died for nothing. I mean, he did at least capture the sacred site, so don't underrate that. In 3 minutes, he would have got the gold back. But the Magadai are just becoming frustrating, because they're cutting off any reinforcements coming from the primary base. And this will stop happening now as Mr. begins to build forward stables, but this is the only move TaToH has at this point. He needs to build a serious force back in his base, and he has started building the trebs, but I don't know if he's got enough troops here to protect. Yeah, Knights are going to charge in. There's not enough spearmen here, which means these trebs are going to be burnt investment. That's a sizable amount of gold and wood just wasted if they just get burnt here. It seems like actually Mr.'s going to respect him, but it means he can't put these trebs to work right now. If anything, they feel a little bit sunk. They feel like maybe if you went for springboards, they would have been better value. It should be highlighted that trebs are slightly cheaper, but not by much. I think it's 150 compared to 200 for the other factions. But yeah, with that, that's tech up. So this is what we're expecting. We said Mr's economy is stronger, and he's utilizing that. Now, with the tech buffs that will come out on these knights, he will plow through this line because there's nowhere near enough spearmen. You need like 4, maybe 5 barracks constantly producing spearmen here, which is why we see TaToH starts building more barracks. The question is whether this is going to be too late. There is just so much military production presence here in the mid area of the map for Mr. And yes, we are seeing this slow slog up and down the sea by TaToH, but most of the value in C has already been found by Mr. He can just switch into full land and just pressure now. Spears, nowhere near enough. Veteran Royal Knights will just charge in. They aren't quite at elite status yet. I think one of these should be upgrading. And yeah, there it is cute. It's going to take a long time yet. But it doesn't matter. He's actually reached the critical mass to just run straight through all these spearmen. And GG gets called. TaToH knows when he's out. France reigns supreme.